Elden Ring movie is confirmed. They're not even just Elden Ring. There's been a movie confirmed already for Expedition 33. And now also we just got confirmation that apparently they're making a movie about Elden Ring, which is hype, but also very concerning. Let's take a look at this video.
The last time I felt this level of extreme jubilation, while simultaneously experiencing intense feelings of dread and paranoia, was the day before Silent Hill 2 Remake came out. Didn't think I would be—
This game was so good, by the way. Holy crap.
Be feeling those kinds of feelings again so soon, but that's the world we live in, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, guys, what were just rumors a few weeks ago has now been made official. An Elden Ring movie is in development at A24. Yeah.
Elden Ring movie in the works from Civil War director Alex Garland. I don't know, I think it Elden Ring, like, I love Elden Ring and like Dark Souls, but it's very Lovecraftian in a way, like very mysterious and like all that stuff. So I think it'll be very difficult to turn into a movie. I don't know if it would work better as a series or not, but I'm intrigued. I do wonder how they're gonna do it. If it's gonna be some sort of thing where you follow America, or if it'll be like you're gonna be some sort of, I wouldn't say tarnished, because I guess it's not tarnished in Elden Ring, but I don't know. It's like, what direction are they gonna go with it, right?
Yeah, the studio that's most—
It should be 90% no dialogue and told through the surroundings. Well, because that's how the game works, certainly not Colby. And I think in a game that works very, very well. But it's very difficult to do that with a movie, right? Because movies kind of need dialogue a lot of the times.
Most famous for low-budget indie films is doing an Elden Ring movie. Oh, and in case you didn't know, they're also doing a Death Stranding movie too, both of which I can't imagine will have a budget less than $100 million. That's fine though, A24 has been killing it lately, making both great films and getting an excellent return on investment.
Okay.
The biggest piece of news though, in my opinion, is who is attached to write and direct. That being Alex Garland, whose most notable works include the 28 Days Later franchise, Ex Machina, and last year's Civil War. Obviously.
You know what's crazy? Okay, so I haven't seen any of these, to be fair. The first thing I was thinking about is Marvel when I heard Civil War. So I don't know this director. I haven't seen much of his work.
Because this is just an announcement, this is all the information that we have and will have for a long time. It'll be at least a year before we get any casting announcements or story details or whatever. But this information alone was enough to make me stop all my plans for the next 24 hours and talk to you guys about it. Look, I'll be honest. When the rumors about an Elden Ring movie first hit my ears a few weeks ago, I didn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that Hidetaka Miyazaki would be comfortable enough with somebody trying to translate his unique, minimalist narrative style into a movie. And make no—
That's my main worry with it. Like, how the heck are they gonna capture that style and feel that From Software games have in a movie?
No mistake, it's at least partially his decision to make. And I know some of you guys would probably say, well, no, it's not his decision, Max. It's probably Bandai Namco's decision. No, that's not true. Remember, From Software bought the rights to the Elden Ring IP back from them. So it's either entirely up to him or him and a couple other head honchos and advisors. In the case of the movie, I would imagine he'd have a solid degree of input regarding who would be the person with the right take on the source material.
They're starting to milk Elden Ring. It does feel a little bit like it, right, Henry? Because Elden Ring got the whole thing with, like, you know, Game of the Year, all that shit, like really fucking hype game. Amazing game, by the way. Super awesome DLC as well. And now we have Night Rain, and now there's a movie. It does feel like a bit like it's become that, what is it called? Is it called the golden goose? What is the saying? Or like, that's like their winner, right? That's the bread. So like they're trying to just get as much money as possible out of it. The cash cow, that's maybe a better word. Yeah, the cash cow. And I think this is something that's, I mean, I made this comparison a little bit before. Larian Studios is freaking amazing because they have this Baldur's Gate 3 game, right? Which was awesome. Literally one of the best games I ever played, but they decided not to do a DLC for the game because they felt like it would feel too forced and it would be too much work to put on them just for the sake of getting it out, right? I don't hope this is the case with Elden Ring, but it could very much likely be. White Wolf says, I don't mind games getting made into movies and series because 90% of the games coming out these days have better stories than movies. Yeah, but I do think it's very difficult to translate a lot of the stuff, the narrative stuff that's being told in movies or like in games to a movie or a series, especially with a game like Elden Ring from Software games, right? Because the way that the narrative is like being told in the game is very like vague and mysterious, and I think that's what makes it intriguing. So can you do that in a game? I don't know if you can. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, didn't Shuhei Yoshida say that the reason why nothing has been done with the Bloodborne IP was because only Miyazaki wanted to be the one to touch it, and Sony respected that even though they own the IP? So why would Miyazaki be more lax with an IP that he owns? With that in mind, I would have been okay with Alex Garland if Miyazaki didn't have a say, but seeing that he does have a say, I went from just okay to over the moon excited.
Get it? Because it's the moon boss. I don't know.
While he might not have been my first choice, getting Alex Garland to write and direct the movie is still a damned great choice.
Yeah.
First of all, it's never a mistake to hire talent. And of all the movies I've ever seen Alex Garland write or direct, there's only one that I wasn't a huge fan of, but that still got a generally positive reception, and that was Never Let Me Go. All of his other movies, though, are generally loved, and I count myself as somebody who's not only a fan, but a big fan of Alex Garland. In respect to the movies he wrote the aforementioned 28 Days Later, which rocks. He wrote Dread, which nobody saw but is amazing. He wrote and directed my favorite movie of 2014, Ex Machina. And
you guys said this was really good too. I haven't seen any of these movies. Henry says, as a Witcher fan, I'm always cheering up big companies ruining good IP since they butchered my Witcher. I watched Witcher. It was okay, but I don't know. It's very rare that like I don't know. Because it's really difficult to capture that feel that it had. Season 1 was pretty good, I will say. It was pretty good. The second season, was not that great. Also, Last of Us. I never played the game Last of Us, but I watched the series and I quite liked that one. Maybe one day I'll actually play Last of Us too.
I know that Annihilation and Civil War have their detractors, but I genuinely liked both. I thought Annihilation was awesome. And while Civil War admittedly had some problems with tone and pace, it was still really damned good overall. I haven't seen Men, which I heard is one of his weakest offerings, but from what I understand, even that movie has its fans.
I love Men!
And unfortunately, I haven't seen Sunshine or Warfare yet, but both have been positively received. Outside of that though, he has some experience in writing for video games. He wrote Enslaved Odyssey to the West, which is generally understood as one of the most underrated video games ever made. And he also did
I have never heard about that.
The Devil May Cry reimagining, which I haven't played, and correct me if I'm wrong, while people think it's a bad Devil May Cry game, a decent number of people thought it was still a fun game if you ignore the title. So, you have one of the best filmmakers in the business, a guy who has written for games, and is on record, I should mention, as being a huge Elden Ring fan. Yeah, a guy who's on his New Game Plus 6 run of Elden Ring is the guy writing and directing the movie adaptation?
That's at least good. It's good to have people that are passionate about the games that they're trying to... Yeah, that's at least good.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Alex Garland's name alone does...
Someone is an Alex fan? Yeah, I'm getting the feeling this guy is a big fan of the director.
So much to calm my nerves. I feel like he probably understands Elden Ring well. What makes the story stand out in respect to narrative style, the unique characters, and world building, etc. Now, the only question is, how? Seriously, how?
Yeah. Take it as a grain of salt. Elon plays Elden Ring 2, but my man was running all stat build. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, it's hard to really gauge it, right, like that.
How? How do you condense the mythology, the political drama, the size and scope of the world into what I would imagine would be a 2.5-hour movie? Like,
I don't know.
Can you imagine taking the entirety of Game of Thrones, which you can reasonably say is the television equivalent of Elden Ring, what with George R.R. Martin being involved in both, and condensing that into a single movie? I mean...
That's a bit of a comparison.
Sure, you could do multiple movies, and they probably will, but even then, how do you line up all of Elden Ring's story arcs, its history, its vast, all-encompassing mythology, into something linear? Something that has a beginning, middle, and end. I have some ideas regarding that, but I'll save those for just a second. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about is how much this movie will directly explain so many of the mysteries that are in the game.
Yeah.
So much of what makes the storytelling in From Software's games so joyous is not knowing what the hell is going on.
It's the thing where you fill in the gaps, right? That's what I feel like. It's so interesting about From Software and the way that they tell stories in their games is like a lot of it's just kind of mysterious. Like, you know, you gotta just think a bit. You gotta like look into like a little lore here and there. But there's a lot of gaps in the stories, which is good in a way. You don't have to incorporate everything. Yeah, I mean, you could make it a trilogy. You could follow Marika. You could follow like some unknown There's a lot of ways you can go about it, right?
Not having definitive answers and just being able to bask in the mystery. That or, you know, reading thousands of Reddit posts trying to piece things together. While you can still do stuff like that in a movie, holding stuff back to the same degree that the games do could birth a series of problems. Like, how do you handle a character like Rykard without directly explaining what the hell the deal is with the god-devouring serpent? Or how do you include a character like Melina without directly addressing whether or not she is, in fact, the Gloam-eyed Queen? Do you explain what the deal is with Godwyn and those weird-looking corpses he left behind? To be honest, though
about the Dung Eater? Just one big full 2-hour movie about him.
My entire channel is dedicated to trying to explain these kinds of mysteries in games like Elden Ring and others. I do understand the benefit of holding back answers sometimes, and I'm not sure how I would feel if a fully fleshed out narrative directly explained all of these things. Now, you don't have to explain all of them, but you'd probably have to explain a lot. If you don't, and you end up doing a lot of the storytelling in a minimalist way, it could easily come across as pretentious. Thankfully, even with this, there is reason to be optimistic, because with the aforementioned Annihilation, there are some things in that movie that are left beautifully unexplained. But I just fail to see how Garland will tackle the game's vast number of mysteries, which ones to explain, which not to, etc. But back to the matter of how to tell this story. Do you start with the story of the Tarnished? If so, how do you make a character that is supposed to be a player insert into somebody that's interesting on their own? What is their history? Is the Tarnished a Newman like Marika? You know, now that I think about it, that could actually be pretty interesting. It would give Melina, a child of Marika, a connection to the Tarnished beyond...
It could also just be like a random Tarnished in the world. It's a weird thing, right?
Just being their maiden.
Honestly.
They could have a quasi-shared ancestry and bond over that. Or, what if the Tarnished is a Reedlander? I mean, no, they won't do that.
It's very likely gonna be live action, I bet. I highly doubt they'll make an animated movie.
Even though it would be damned cool to see the world of Sekiro looped in there somehow, that's just too inside baseball, man. Like, I don't see how they would do that. Ultimately, the only way I can see this working is if they focus solely on the history of the Lands Between prior to the shattering of the Elden Ring. Make Marika the main character in the first movie. Make the entire storyline center around her pursuit of power and her desire to right the innumerable cosmic injustices that surround her. What with her removing the rune of destined death, her getting revenge on the Hornsent for their jar experiments, yada yada yada. Then build up all the political scandal around that. There's plenty of potential drama you can have with Radigan, what with her and Marika being the same person, yet he goes and gets it on with Renala and that whole situation. I can easily see how you can write a good story, what with the various lineages and their infighting. That would be enough for a movie on its own, and I can picture in my head how something like that could end up being pretty damned great. Still, I think that to do it right, you have to do the entire movie around just that. And then do a sequel or two where the Tarnished comes along and tries to right everything. Or maybe do a movie on Miquella II and then make the third movie center on the Tarnished. But again, I don't see how you do a movie with Marika at the center, while also keeping so much of the stuff happening to her kids close to the vest. And even if you do explain everything, how do you not spiral out of control, while also trying to give enough attention to stuff like Rykard's fall from grace, or...
It's one of those things where you can't like cover everything. You gotta just focus on one part of the story, whether it's Marika or Rykard, whatever, probably Marika or something like that. And just go with that, right? Just make it about that, and if people like it, they like it.
Miquella's ambition with the Halig tree and the stuff in the Lands of Shadow. I don't know. Anyway, those are just my initial thoughts. I think there's plenty of reason to be optimistic, but there are just so many factors that can go wrong that I can't help but feel extremely trepidatious at the same time.
Video assumes that the whole lore has to be in one movie. Yeah, I mean, that's not realistic, right? It can't be like some giga in-depth, like Elden Ring, like nerd lore thing. It'll be something that people that don't know Elden Ring could follow, right? So like if you completely know nothing about it, you could still watch the movie and be entertained, right? Does a Melania and Radahn fight? Ooh, a Melania movie. Or that would actually go hard. The whole thing with Melania and the Scarlet Rot with her fight with Radahn, all that shit. Honestly, that would go fucking hard. Because Melania is like one of the most, like, I don't know, like well-known like characters from Elden Ring. The whole fight with Radahn and the Scarlet Rot and all that shit would actually be so sick. Hoping it's a prequel showing the massive war, pre-nuclear Khaled would be rad. Yeah, this here as well, right? Because this is the thing with Melania. Yeah, it's gonna be a Melania movie. There's no way. There's no way.